Good morning, everybody. Happy holidays. We're here at the Pearl Farmers Market at the Chef's Cooperative booth. Today we are with Chef Mike Miller. Chef, welcome.
Hello.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, I'm ready for a great Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So what are we doing today?
So today we're going to teach you some old-fashioned food making techniques that everybody can do at home. That's actually really simple. We're going to make some homemade sauerkraut. And then we're going to show you how to use that in a dish, a real simple dish to make quickly. We're going to use some lamb sausage. We're going to use the homemade sauerkraut that we just made. And we're going to use a vegetable I bet a lot of you don't know how to use or have never used, a rutabaga.
Yeah. It sounds very old-fashioned and something you find in your grandmother's kitchen that you like to use.
Absolutely. So, in order to make this meal, it takes about 2 weeks to a month to actually make. So, you got to kind of take that into timing, or what you want to do if you want to actually have this tomorrow, come see us at our booth. We'll have, fast forward, all this sauerkraut ready for you to eat, and then that way when you make it, you can make it that day and have it for the next month's meal.
I like that.
Absolutely.
But a true labor of love if you're making it the other way.
Absolutely. So the first thing we need to do is we'll talk about how to make sauerkraut, which, believe it or not, is easy to make. It just takes something that I don't have a lot of called patience, which is ironic because I guess the business I'm in. So what you need is, let me talk a little bit about the cabbage. So traditional sauerkraut is typically made with green cabbage. We like to call it the Western green cabbage. This is about a 2-pound size head that we picked up here locally with Brawny Farms. But you can use any green cabbage. You know, kimchi is made with Chinese Napa cabbage. The sauerkraut's made with this traditional kind of what we know as cabbage. What I will recommend is, I do recommend organic or farm-raised cabbage over conventional cabbage. It's not because of the pesticides, I'll explain that why. It's because usually organic or farm-raised have not been sitting in coolers as long, so it usually has a higher moisture content. And that's really important when making sauerkraut, is because you never want to add water. If you added water, something's gone wrong, okay? Which means you're probably not angry enough, okay? So I like organic, I like the farm because of that. Sometimes it's just naturally sweeter, but it's because of the moisture content over the pesticides. Now the reason I don't care about pesticides, because I'll be honest with you, eating some sauerkraut is better than no sauerkraut, right? And we'll get into the reason why. But usually why I don't really concern about conventional pesticides is because when you make sauerkraut, you're going to peel off the outer layers of the cabbage anyway. Usually it comes in this huge ball. The farmers have already picked out the outer layers. You're still going to peel back your outer layers. So there's really almost no chance of pesticides by the time you get it. That's why they consider it one of the safest vegetables if you're concerned about pesticides. Okay? However, again, for moisture, I only buy organic. We have, as Madge, that's what we did. We went ahead, we went all in on this cabbage, all organic. For that reason, just makes it better for us. Okay, so all you need to make sauerkraut is A, cabbage, B, a good salt. Okay, salt is important. It needs to be pure salt, no iodine, no iodize, no table salt, nothing like that. So I use pink Himalayan or sea salt. Okay?
Does the iodine affect the flavor?
It affects the flavor, the texture, and can be off-putting a little bit. It can interfere in the process of the fermentation. The microbes won't act like they should. So don't use table salt. That's the evil salt. Okay? I'm very picky about my salts. I will only use 99.9% pure salt, no additives, no sulfur, no nothing. That's because I don't want anything interfering.
Do you prefer a coarser salt? It doesn't matter?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I mean, they do recommend a finer salt, but I mean, obviously, you don't want like ice cream rock salt, right? That's going to kind of hurt. But yeah, technically, when you make wines, it's going to get dissolved, so it really doesn't matter. Even though smaller grit will dissolve faster or go a little faster.
Okay.
It's preferable, but if you start getting like that right salt, flour, they call Okay, so that's all you really need, and then the most important thing is a good fermentation vessel.
That's my
Sorry.
family.
He's been in the Army. I haven't seen him in a long time. So, I recommend this. These are these products made in Korea. It's what they use to make kimchi in the little kimchi refrigerators. It's kind of, believe it or not, high tech. This is actually plastic with a clay compound. So it kind of makes it more porosity, increasing porosity, which then allows the bacteria to stay in the plastic a little longer.
That's really fascinating that they can even incorporate the clay into the plastic.
Absolutely. I don't know. Leave it up to Koreans to figure it out. Also, it's like foolproof. So a lot of people are like, hey, let's use mason jars, or we'll use these big Polish or German pots, which is awesome if you want to eat that much, but usually most families are not going to want to make 15 pounds, right? Or 15 liters. So where this is like a half gallon, it's great. It will hold about 4 pounds of cabbage. You might be able to beat it down to 5 pounds a year, but at least 4 pretty safe.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's good for everybody. It's probably, a good 3 jars of sauerkraut.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like I said, again, it's foolproof. I have never, in 4 years of using this, I've never had a failed batch because of my process. It's just been my recipes were crazy and they were horrible flavors.
Chef error.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in that. And we do have a few here on sale. I'm not here to try to make money on it. I'm just selling it at cost. I think they're like $20. If you want to buy one, just come see me. I bought them a long time to have a class. Just got too busy and got the class.
Oh, you sold me. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah.
Actually, your product, you also, if you don't, like you said, if you're feeling a little lazy, you actually have it made for us.
Already made with more flavors. That's one thing. I would never make a plain sauerkraut. I will show you how to make your own. But if you want to kind of elevate it, that's when you come see me.
I think that sounds awesome.
So, if you have a cabbage shredder, by all means shred it. It'll be done really fast. But like when we first started off, you just need a knife, right? So I usually like to quarter mine because the bigger it is, the bigger your shreds are, right? I like a quarter is nice. Anything too smaller, and you kind of want like an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch shred. They call that kind of a hand cut or a cottage sauerkraut, the larger ones. Whereas,
More rustic.
Yeah, the rustic, right? Whereas, in the food business, we use machines, we can get a real fine. But I like kind of a more rustic,
The craft feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, this is kind of a cool product. So now, sauerkrauts have been around for hundreds of years. They're iconic in German, Polish cultures. Well, yeah, fermented foods as a whole is pretty much in every culture around the world. Some really funky ones, which we'll talk about later. I'll talk about a new one.
I like this.
So all you're gonna do is just gonna chop it up, and you do need a metal bowl, which we didn't bring, but we'll
improvise.
We'll improvise. Speed this up a little bit. Okay, so once you got that all chopped, you're gonna take your bowl.
That's amazing. You can fit that much in there, and by adding the salt, it just shrinks.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Take that. It creates a nice tight air suction. You gotta remember to undo the little burp.
I love that. I can't wait to go home and try that.
So now the only other thing I said the only other ingredient you have to have when you make sauerkraut is either anger or stress, because it does help. So take your cabbage. So my general rule of thumb is for every 5 pounds of cabbage, you only need 2 tablespoons of salt. Okay, that's the ratio I use.
I'm very surprised at how little you use. I assumed it would be much more.
Absolutely. So for fermented foods, if you're concerned about your sodium, this is probably one of the foods that has the lowest amount of sodium in it. And you can technically get away with less salt. I just know my flavor profile, what I like, it's about 2 to 5.
Okay.
Right? But yeah, you can get probably down to about half of that, but I wouldn't recommend anything lower than that. Now, if you're on a strictly no salt diet, which I'll argue about because that's unhealthy, but I'm not a doctor, and you're okay with dairy, you can use whey. So like you go to yogurt, I think mother's cultures, they have whey you can get, and you can use whey instead of salt.
That change the texture?
Yes, that's my only complaint about whey. It does have a tendency to make things softer.
Okay.
So it might not have that same crunch, but it may be more in line with a commercial sauerkraut that we're more familiar with. It's a little softer. That you pretty much get on the options.
We have options. That's pretty cool.
So what we're going to train you how to make here is a raw, kind of young sauerkraut. It'll be nice and crunchy and crisp after a couple of days. So once you do that, put it in your bowl. I think this head of cabbage is about 2 pounds.
Okay.
So we're going to use just a tidbit of salt. Oops. Make sure you get it in your bowl. That's about it. That's all the salt it takes. And then, like I said, being stressed and angry helps, because you're going to go in there and you're just basically going to squeeze. You're going to beat the cabbage. You're going to squeeze it. You can punch it, whatever you want to do. Don't do it on a little table like this. Do it on some countertop so you can put some muscle behind it. But you're just going to basically beat that salt into the cabbage. What's going to happen is that sodium is going to go to work in expressing. Now we'll go back to organic. Why it's so important for organic farming is that moisture, right? You want that salt to start drawing out the natural moisture in the cabbage. That's going to make your brine. If you have to start adding water, that's a problem. I don't add water, so if you want to know how much salt to add to it, I have no idea. Okay, because every time I've had to make water, it comes out horrible.
Okay, so we'll stick organic.
Yeah. So try not to use water. If you must, I can make a guess about 20 grams of salt per quart. But that's probably where I would do it nowadays.
It's kind of nice to trust Mother Nature and let it take its own course.
And it's okay. Like you're gonna see that we're not going to have that moisture content built up right away, right? It's amazing when I do it 50 pounds at a time, how much water we get. But when we do one head of cabbage, it's okay to let it set. Let it set for an hour, come back, then punch it down, you'll notice the moisture. It's about patience, right? I'm about the most impatient person in the world. You can ask my wife. Yes. So you'll literally, like I said, you'll go in there and you beat it down, compact it, you're going to express those juices out. And like I said, you'll start to see how my glove's getting wet. Again, I didn't add any water, so you're just starting to get that moisture. And eventually what's going to happen is that salt, you're going to want to get that moisture to come up above the cabbage. That's ultimately what we're looking for. And if we go back to that last batch that we did, you can start to see, how that, see that getting a little bit, right?
So can you mix other vegetables with this? Does it have to be just cabbage? Can you add others?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to mix different stuff in.
At the same time?
Yeah, so you could, like we do fennel. We'll take the whole fennel bowl and we'll shake it, we'll run it through a slicer, or we'll chop up the fronds. You can mix that, we'll add carrots to it, like the Russians do a similar version. It's like a salad, they'll use carrots and sauerkraut. Yeah, you can use a lot of different
like giardiniera, basically.
Or rutabaga. Rutabaga in Germany, if you ferment this, it's called Sauerkraut. Right? So sauerkraut. So yeah, there's a lot of different things. Again, the whole point of this back hundreds of years ago was not to create gut healthy foods like we know it today. It was to allow their harvest to survive and have food through the harsh months. Lo and behold, they had no idea what they were doing except for preservation. Nowadays, this is like the cutting edge of bioscience, right? This is a whole new world about the link between our gut and our mind and our health. And this is like the new cutting edge science.
I love this.
But it's been done for hundreds of thousands of years. It's really crazy.
And it's very affordable. Absolutely. I had a cabbage cost next to nothing.
Yeah, I think even the local farmers, right? It's like $2 for a big head of cabbage, right? So I mean that's and this will literally, like I said, make you probably 3 jars of sauerkraut. So.
And as we were talking about earlier, as a chef, I like the acidity that you can put on any dish. Just a little dollop on anything, a taco, something that's like, oh, you want me eggs? Like for breakfast, that's pretty cool.
One of my favorite breakfasts is, right now it's either between this garlic sauna, which we're going to demo today, or kimchi. You take a baked potato, a little butter, salt, pepper, just let the butter make it good. good. Put some sauerkraut or kimchi, and then a fried egg on top. Literally have a breakfast in 6 minutes.
Super healthy.
Yeah. So, I don't know about butter, but hey, butter tastes good. Irish really good. So once that's compacted down, this is why, again, I like these, because you need what's called an anaerobic environment. That's without oxygen, right? So these little lids just go in, you push it down. You want to push it down until you get a little bit of moisture coming out, which for time's sake we don't have the time. But once a little brine comes up, you just push that little burp hole in there, and now you have an anaerobic environment. And then, absolutely, and then all you do is put the lid on, and you put it on your counter, and you forget about it for a few days. That's it, right? And every 2 or 3 days, you want to come back and check it. What's going to happen as stuff is fermenting, it's going to produce CO2. The CO2 is going to push that lid up, and you just want to come and burp it, push it back down, keep that CO2 from building up. It just keeps it, it's just a faster ferment. It doesn't allow the cabbage to float. And anything you get on float, you get a texture change. So again, you keep things below the brine and moist, it allows that nice crunchy texture.
And you were saying the anaerobic environment is essential for it not turning into alcohol.
Correct.
Okay.
That's how they make. So with anaerobic, so to make alcohol you need yeast and sugars, right? So by keeping that anaerobic environment, you're not allowing wild yeast. Like right now, all around us, there's wild yeast in the air, there's wild microbes in the air. That's kind of what we rely on. But if we give too much oxygen, that's what yeast need, right? And then the sugar, which there is sugar in cabbage, but very, at our level, nothing we can detect, right? But the microbes, they love it. That's what they feed on. They need to feed on those vegetables, right? And that's what creates the fermentation. So yeah, so then after you put it in the container, every 2 or 3 days, about the first couple days, just go in every 2 or 3 days, burp it. About 2 weeks, test it. Take your first little bite out of it. What I know our krauts are done, I like young krauts, crunchy and young. And what that means is, when I can know, right now it's going to taste like salt water, like seawater. You have that cabbage, but really kind of like a little bit salty, like an ocean water. That's fine, that's about right. But after about 2 weeks, you don't want to detect that salt in you. You want that, what's called acetic acid, which is what the microbes inside the CO2 emit, which is basically like a vinegar taste. You want that slight vinegar taste to overpower and mask the saltiness. So that's why I know I'll pull it and start eating it. And then if you make a big batch of it, you can just pull it as you need it, and you can let this continue to ferment. And it's just going to change over time. You know, if you let it ferment for months, if you want like a softer, then let it ferment for 4 months. If you want it more sour, let it ferment longer, or put it in a warmer section of your kitchen. But the reason I like this too, no UV, no light can get in it. That's a critical component. That's why I'm not a big fan of mason jar fermentation.
Okay,
it's just not consistent. I've had good batches and I've had a lot of bad batches.
I like the romantic notion and the fact that each batch is very unique due to the natural use of the exact environment that it's in. So San Antonio's is unique, Bear County's is unique, and then if the further out you go, Austin would have a different kimchi than what we would have here.
Well, we're all familiar with the famous San Francisco sourdough, right? And that's all started, hundreds of years ago or something like that. That sourdough starter is unique to San Francisco because of what's in the air there, and the natural microbes. So the same way here, and that's something we like to do, is continue that heritage or that legacy of the generational batch by a little starter in every batch. That way, in essence, you're keeping it going, kind of like the way. So,
honing in your unique taste.
I don't know, I just kind of sit down and go, what's crazy, what can we do, what sounds good together, right? And I try a lot, and I fail a lot, but when it's good, it's good. Okay, so now that we got the sauerkraut going, in the meantime, we're going to start cooking up our sausage. Today we're using this lamb pork sausage from Terrapin Farms. They're the lamb farmers up the road here. I don't think they're here today, but they are here on Saturdays. But they will not be here January, February. But I thought lamb would be a good sausage. It's a German style sausage. So what we're going to do today is we're going to saute up some sausage, some rutabaga, which a lot of you probably never had, and then some sauerkraut. Now, real quick note, once you heat up sauerkraut past 140, you're gonna kill the microbes. So this is not for a good health cooking demonstration. This is just something else to do with it. For more culinary reasons, if you want to eat it for good health, eat it raw. Today we wanted to cook. So we just gotta slice up our sausage, save up time. I'd probably grill it or even do a beer braise. But today we're gonna saute it.
You get more caramelization when you cut it that way as well.
That's called the Maillard reaction.
That's my favorite reaction. All that good flavor.
Black garlic, guy knows what that is.
Yeah, I know.
And then we add just a little oil. And so this episode, last one we did our tradition, closest to the traditional I'll do, which is a Reuben kraut, which has caraway seed and black pepper, kind of pulling out the spices in a Reuben sandwich from the brisket and the Jewish rye. Today we're going to do more of a South Texas kraut that we designed. It's called a garlic serrano. It's going to be very garlic forward, and the serrano's been deseeded and de-ribbed, so it's not spicy. It's just the flavor, which I really like of the serrano. This is probably the one product my staff does not like to make.
Really?
Yeah, because deseeding all the serrano it's pretty tough.
That would be delicious on a taco.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. This is probably the one I'm addicted to right now. This is the one I eat on the baked potatoes. Now, if you ask my wife, she's going to tell you she has a different favorite kraut. It's amazing. Our family will all have different favorite krauts. So,
You guys probably are the healthiest family in San Antonio.
you think we do eat a lot of fermented drinks and food, right?
There you go.
So, once that heats up, we'll just start throwing the sausage on.
That sausage is gorgeous. It's a lamb pork blend.
It's a 50% pork, 50% lamb.
Yum.
And they raise their own lamb, so that's awesome.
Yeah. I like that the lamb here in South Texas, they're raising them for food and not for wool, so the flavor is really delicious.
This is awesome. Yeah. You know, anything besides cook, right? Yeah. So today we're going to use rutabaga. So rutabaga is in season right now, but a lot of you probably never. It looks like very similar to like a turnip. To me, it's like a potato replacement. Anytime you can use a potato, you can use a rutabaga. If you're diabetic, you probably should know about rutabagas because they have no starch. So it's a lot healthier for you than the potatoes. These I ate raw the other day from the farmer. You get them from Wholesome Harvest Farms here. John's like one of my favorite farmers. That's usually where I buy a lot of my baby daikons and stuff throughout the year from me, right? Or my cucumbers in the summer. So if you ever have my pickles, they come from him, right? I'm very protective of him. I try to buy all his cucumbers so nobody else can buy them. Now, don't get me started on pickles. We're never going to have a demonstration on how to make your own kosher pickles. It's too hard.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay, so one thing you saw me use gloves. So if I'm going to make it at home, I'm doing it for public, and I do it for a profession, I got to use gloves, right? If I'm going to make this stuff at home, especially sauerkraut, I don't want to use gloves. I want to wash my hands, which again, we want to embrace healthy bacteria, not scare it away. So the stuff that resides on your clean hands is the type of microbes that we want in it. It's all this different bacteria. Because we were talking, there's an interesting fact here. Every human's body is 30 trillion human cells. But we actually have 40 trillion bacteria cells. So we're actually more bacteria than we are human. So we do a good job nowadays of feeding the body and the humans. This is food designed to feed the bacteria. So again, it goes into this absolutely, it goes into this whole ecosystem about food, health, and the biome. It's amazing. So the other thing is, I like to wash my vegetables. I don't like to grate them, right? I like to clean them, make sure we get all the field dirt. But again, I'm not looking for sterile vegetables, right? I'm not a big fan of roots. I'm going to cut the roots off with a little fuzz. But yeah, I typically don't. I'll just wash. That's it. Okay?
It's a good tip.
Don't want to sterilize it either, so no bleach in the water, stuff like this. It's a completely different way of cooking. It freaks out the FDA quite a bit because we think we live in this sterile food environment. And we're like the opposite. Like we want bacteria.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of nice because the FDA doesn't really know what to do with this.
I was kind of excited to learn that chocolate's a prebiotic, so now I have these.
Oh, it's amazing. Actually, chocolate's a fermented food.
Is it?
Yes, they ferment the cacao bean over 7 days in order to break down. So remember, the reason this fermentation is cool is not only because of probiotics, which we're all familiar with. It's sometimes, okay, let's see if I can get this right. It increases the bionutrition availability of a food or product.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So basically what that does, that means is, so we'll pick on the keto diet, right? At first, like many years ago, I used to think the keto people were these no-grainers. That's more than just keto. We're crazy. I'm like, what is this no-grain stuff? We've been eating breads for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But the more I started researching it, right, I'm not one just to say you're wrong, I research. And so the more I researched about it, I was like, you know what? They're actually somewhat correct. There's something in grains that is something called phytic acid. And these phytic acids are basically binders. They bind the nutritional availability in these grains. So why cows can eat grains is because they have multiple stomachs. Those are basically different fermentation chambers. So it's like a pre-digestion.
Right. We don't have that.
We don't have that. So I went into this experiment. I'm like, I don't like oatmeal. But I'm like, let's experiment with oatmeal. Maybe I'll like oatmeal. So I started fermenting oatmeal. Simple as all get out. It's even simpler than sauerkraut, and it only takes about 4 days.
I'm so excited to try that. You were telling me about that earlier, and I love oatmeal. But when you started saying it starts to smell like beer, you had me there. So I'm
You
going
get
to try that.
you get that yeasty, beery smell after 4 days. It's time to cook it in oatmeal.
Now, does it carry that flavor with it? That flavor profile?
Yes, it does. Because that fermentation, that sourness will permeate, and it will absolutely. When you cook it up, yeah, it will come out. And that's why I like that. I think it created that boring, like almost tasteless taste.
Yeah.
It gave it some taste, some body to it.
Definitely.
But the reason it's so, I guess getting back on the wagon of, keto's not so crazy, is so that phytic acid doesn't allow our bodies to absorb it. But when you ferment it, it breaks that phytic acid down in something called phytase, or phytase, something like that. Oh, it's correct. But what that does is, now it releases it. And now our bodies can absorb, and it increases our ability of the body to absorb things like B1, iron, calcium, that's all in oatmeal.
So they're all bioavailable now because of the breakdown.
Bioavailability, and now you actually can digest and take care of all the nutrients in oatmeal.
That's so exciting.
And then in other cultures, fermenters use it like beverages. I think there's a South American country where they actually use their own saliva to start the fermentation process. Now that's probably a
We
product.
don't need to go on that. Yeah.
I'm probably
Save
not
that for
gonna-
another
that's
class.
like the crazy stuff, but it's used in a lot of cultures, right? I'm all about like
Makes sense.
fermented fruit, like pineapple,
That would be really delicious.
I don't do fermented meats.
That's a whole other thing. I'm trying to experiment with fermented meats. I've done a few, and I'm always intimidated with the South Texas meat, even though they say you're fine. And I don't know. No, I got the sausage to the side where you're getting well.
So we're gonna just saute these. I don't need to cook these. I'm gonna keep it a little bit on the al dente side to slight raw. They're so sweet naturally. I don't need to cook them, but if you want to kind of get that brown like a potato, like a hash, absolutely all in, go for it.
Can we use some of the acid from your
Absolutely.
to
The
deglaze?
glaze.
Yeah, we got a little heat here, a little heat situation. There we go. That'll be good. Oh yeah, look at that flavor.
See, that's all because of just the natural juices. And as time ferments, you'll get more juice.
Look at that. It smells really good. So you were talking about that Maillard reaction.
Absolutely, that Maillard reaction on the potato or the rutabagas. A little behind.
Oh, you're good. You got plenty.
I just get so excited and passionate about this type of food and what it can do.
It shows. It came out great. Fun topic to talk about.
Absolutely. It's the nerdiest food ever.
Hi guys, we got you more people. You're doing a good job.
Okay, so we're gonna give the rutabagas a chance to kind of like heat up a little bit. And again, we're gonna add some sauerkraut here in a bit to mix it. But again, this is not gonna be for the health side, this is gonna be for the culinary side. Because once we get it over 140, we start killing the healthy bacteria.
Well, can we just toss it with, turn the heat off, and then toss it with the hot food and keep the best of both worlds?
You can keep it cold too.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, again, it's just your preference.
Nice.
It's nice to change it up, right?
Definitely.
Because even if you do kill the bacteria, this is still a prebiotic. Your body needs not only the probiotic, but you have to keep that environment in your gut healthy so the bacteria can live.
Gotta keep them happy.
And that's what they call prebiotics. So anybody wondering what's the difference between pre and pro? Pro is the bacteria, the pre is the stuff like fiber. Fiber keeps that gut healthy, right?
I think that's good, right?
Okay.
Well, what's up to you?
So now we'll go ahead and start inputting the sauerkraut in there.
I like the color that you've added there with the peppers. It looks nice.
Yeah, we were blessed with a batch of red serranos.
Oh.
And this is not spicy again. We go through the trouble of seeding and ribbing. We use the whole jar today.
Nice.
And then you can clean it and reuse it.
Very cool. This looks so amazing. I'm so excited to try this. Well, Chef, thank you so much for visiting and talking about fermentation today. This is awesome. Thanks, guys, for sharing this opportunity to meet with a really amazing San Antonio local that's doing some great things with fermentation.
Yeah, if you ever have any questions, just come see us back in the booth. I'll totally nerd out with you about it. You might have to stop and say, okay, whoa, slow down. But I really get caught up into it.
We'll say goodbye to our people out there.
Bye, YouTubers, Facebookers.